If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Before we get started with today's video, I have an announcement to make. After years of telling other people's stories, I finally released one of my own. My novel Eternal Reign is available now in both ebook and paperback format for those of you who are like me and prefer to collect physical media. You can grab a copy right now on Amazon through the link in the description of this video. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. In Tuliyollal, the Warrior of Light runs into a man named Zacian, who has been wandering around the city looking for her for quite some time. He has some very important work that he's doing, and you're the only person who can help him with it because of course you are. He's a professor of archaeology at the Studium in Charlian, and he was invited to Tural by its former ruler to oversee a few archaeological expeditions around the continent. He'd heard that you had been wandering around the New World, and he figured that you would be the perfect person to help him uncover more of Tural's history. He doesn't plan on having you wander around to random places though, since he already has somewhere in mind out in the wilds of Jacques Tural. He discovered some ruins out in Shalani that hadn't been explored in over 1,000 years, but they weren't exactly safe. He'd hired some mercenaries to keep him alive while he explored the place, and by the time they were halfway through, they realized that the best way to stay alive was to get out of there as fast as possible, and they still nearly died. While the last trip there didn't exactly go well, Zacian is pretty sure that it won't be hard for you to make it through the place. Since exploring new places is one of the Warrior of Light's favorite pastimes, she's fine with taking on the job, so she heads into the place that Zacian calls the Tender Valley. There is absolutely nothing tender about the valley. It's full of cactuar and a whole host of other very hostile monsters that make it pretty clear why the mercenaries couldn't make it through the place. When you get to the actual ruins, the very first thing that you notice is how similar the place is to the Ronkan ruins you saw in the first. At the heart of the place is a very big creature that looks like the Great Serpent of Ronka. It tries to murder you, so you beat it until it shrinks down and runs away. Having explored the entire place, you head back to Zacian to tell him exactly what you saw there. Hearing about a giant serpent at the heart of some ruins that seemed to have been built by a completely different civilization was not exactly what he was expecting. He figures that the ancient Yakuhi who had built the place probably did it out of both fear and respect for the big serpent that you fought. And the fact that you say it all looks like a place that you saw on a different shard makes him think that he's found the final part of the book that he spent most of his life working on, since it's about how the civilizations of the different reflections seem very similar. He had read everything that the Scions wrote about the source and the reflections, and how when Atheris was broken into shards, the people lost everything from their power to their intelligence. They all had to start from scratch and build their civilizations from the ground up. But since all of the people from each reflection have the same foundation, it isn't all that strange to see that the people created similar things. So he thinks that there may have been a group of people who were like the Ronkans in the area long before the Yakuhi got there. What you saw pretty much proves him right. Since you know quite a bit more about Ronka than he does, he wants you to come with him to talk to the Yakuhi's lore chronicler, so he can tell you about some of their ancient legends, and you can help him see just how similar they are to what you saw in the first. They actually do have a story about the great serpent that you fought. A very long time ago, some Yakuhi went into the valley and found an old temple. The people who had owned it were long dead and no one knew what it had been built for. But while they were inside, they saw a great serpent sleeping. The Yakuhi think that the serpents are divine creatures that rule the boundary between worlds, and since they found one there, they thought it would be a good idea to build an altar around it and pray to it. Years later, their people were plagued by disease, and even though they prayed to the serpent for help, it didn't answer them. Eventually, the Yakuhi decided to leave the area since so many of their people had died, all while the great serpent stayed asleep. The fact that it slept through all of that but decided to wake up now is the real mystery, but since it woke up for you, the chronicler thinks that you might be lucky enough to get blessed by the thing. What Zacian is really curious to find out is if the similarities between what the Yakuhi found on the source and the Ronkan architecture on the first is the result of something as simple as similarities between the builders, or could these ancient people have actually found a way to travel to, or at least communicate between the shards? If they did, that will probably be something that Ishtola will be figuring out how to do in the not too distant future, since she still really wants to figure out how to get back to the first. This concludes the story of the Tender Valley. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time.